Hey there, Sparkly Beans. This is just a quick little update on my daily tarot practice. If you haven't already, you might want to check out the previous video where I kind of went into the combined weekly spread that I do in addition to a daily. But I wanted to focus here on what I've come to change a little bit about my dailies. The weekly spread has not changed from that video, but when I recorded that last one, I know that my daily prompts were a little bit in evolution, and they actually went through a few different rounds, not all of which I can remember. But I wanted to show you what they've landed on, and I noticed that today's happened to be a good illustration of this. So here are the positions that I've been using each day. And again, like, I miss days. I'm fine with that. I think especially if you're neurodivergent, but really anyone, give yourself permission to miss days of a daily practice, and just try to, do it when you can. Do it as often as you can. So I start out with what is the posture that I'm invited to adopt today? And then I ask, what am I invited to prioritize from this place? And then what is the perspective that I'm invited to take? So they're 3 Ps, which helps me to remember, but also they kind of flow a little more than the ones I had before, the different ones I tried. I really like the way each card kind of flows one to the other. So, the posture is not necessarily literal, although maybe sometimes it could even refer to the physical body, but generally is kind of the stance that I'm taking, the approach to the day. It could be, depending on the card, it'll vary a little bit, but sometimes it's, the approach to take, sometimes it's like an attitude or like something to just be like aware of, or maybe some days it might be a card that would suggest like prioritizing boundaries, being more sort of on the defense. Other times it would be more like, yeah, we're leaping forward, we're trying new things. So it's just sort of something to keep in mind as I go through the day. It flows really nicely into, okay, so from this posture, what am I invited to prioritize? It's not the only thing I'll do. And like sometimes it feels like an action, other times it's just like a task or a specific project, but often it'll just feel like things that are like this, maybe. And then from there, I don't always like say it this way, but you could even say like, in this priority, what is the perspective? I don't normally say it that way. I would just say, what is the perspective I'm invited to take? But it kind of has a relationship sometimes because, whatever I'm prioritizing here, it might be that there's a particular perspective on that or something to keep in mind. So today, I pulled the 4 of Cups, which I think is a very on-the-nose example of this, but it really easily flowed to the next question, because if I'm adopting the posture of 4 of Cups, then to me that means respecting my own timing. That means there might be something that I am focusing on right now that I need to remain focused on. It could alternatively, sometimes 4 of Cups is more, encouraging you like not to dwell or get stuck on or to be aware of the other 3, but I tend to read it more that way when it's reversed, honestly, and I tend to read it that way a lot less frequently. So generally I would go with, there's something that I'm encouraged to like take my time and focus on and not feel pulled away from. So that obviously flows really well into, okay, great, well, what is that? What am I prioritizing? What is the cup number for? So I have the Chariot. And this was really obvious for me today because I've been kind of doing some like overhauling of some tools. It's funny, I've definitely released systems a lot in 2022. I've done so many different variations of trying different things with my systems, and then I ended up kind of saying, you know what? A lot of these are serving as a mask or just aren't as useful. That said, I'm kind of coming back to systems in a different way. And so that's what that really feels like, is like, go ahead and prioritize that. Chariot, I always think of tools and the vehicle that gets you from one thing to the other, but also like not clinging to those, and like what helps you to get to the next step, the next line in the major arcana. So I think it's just saying, yeah, like stick with that thing. Like, do in fact prioritize that. And so then the perspective, I can link it to that because I can say, okay, so there's a couple ways I could read this Three of Cups. One would be making sure that the systems that I'm creating account for joy and account for like spontaneity and like if somebody wants to hang out, for example, that like my system is allowing me to do that. But I think it could also be saying, you know, overall on the day, like don't forget if you're spending a lot of time like in this cup of the tools, like don't forget what the purpose of that is, and you know, don't forget to have joy in the day as well. And not get like so caught up in focusing on the system that you're not like also having some fun today. So, you know, that's, of course I would read it differently if it was a different scope of time, but just for a daily pull, like that's how I interpreted those cards. So hopefully that's a good example of like what this would look like. By the way, the deck here is the Violet Ascension Tarot. There's the Violet Ascension Tarot. And I did a brief glance at the weekly. I'll just say, in case that caught your eye, that is the Dream Visions Tarot. So yeah, let me know, do you do daily practice? Has your practice changed in 2022? And what do you think of the spread? Do you have any questions about it? I'd be happy to respond.